Hello, I'm Ben,
I'm Simon.
I'm Ian.
I'm Tim.
and we're from the Super Nerds UK podcast. So, from a bunch of dirty Brits, you're listening to the Dirty Bits on the Orbital Jigsaw Network.
Hi, I'm Tawny Plattis, and you're listening to Dirty Bits, the show where a voiceover artist very casually, and sometimes comedically, retells the sexy, scandalous, and salacious stories your history teacher probably left out. If you're a love bug, as we call our listeners, or a dirty birdie, as we call our Patreon supporters, stay tuned after the episode for listener shoutouts, special insider info, and podcast recommendations from the Dirty Bits newsroom you won't want to miss. Enjoy the show. Mao Zedong is easily one of the most controversial figures in history. He unified China, ended the Civil War, rapidly industrialized the country, and improved the status of women and education. Under his watch, life expectancy increased, and he is often credited for having laid the foundation for China to become an economic superpower. Today, Mao is still generally respected in his homeland, often considered the founding father of modern China. However, during his 27-year reign, his policies also resulted in the deaths of tens of millions of people. Anywhere between 40 and 70 million were killed under his regime due to famine, executions, and forced labor. Mao Zedong was born on December 26, 1893, to a farmer with mad Skrilla in the Hunan province. One day when he's 14, his dad goes, "You're going to marry this 17-year-old girl with a metric grip of land. Go put on a tux." And Mao goes, "Not down, don't know her, not a fan of arranged marriages. I've been doing a lot of reading lately, and this representative democracy thing is actually pretty sick. Ever heard of, George Washington pops?" His dad smacked him over the head and said, "Don't care, honey bear. We're doing this thing. We're doing this thing right, Mao." So Mao gets married in 1908. They probably had dinner at Mao's house the day before the wedding, with all of their friends and family. The bride would have worn red, accompanied with a red veil, and carried on a palanquin. If you've ever seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that was the box thingy they carried Jen Yu in when she was supposed to marry that guy she didn't like. When Mao removed her veil, it would have been customary for the bride to be unhappy with her groom and then publicly insult him. And then there would have been fireworks, 2 days of eating a ton of food, and lots of wedding gifts. Then the wedding guests actually go into the couple's bedroom to tease them with naughty jokes, which is absolutely fantastic. The bride would have been expected to show the bloodstains on their bed sheets to prove that her hymen had been broken during the sexy times, and she was in fact a virgin. But after the wedding takes place, Mao refuses to consummate the marriage. He won't live with his wife and moves away to go to school, leaving his wife to live with his parents for 2 years. Mao's wife was disgraced and may have lived as Mao's father's concubine until she died of dysentery. So after all of this, Mao goes, "Arranged marriages suck. People should marry for love, and women should be treated equally." Mao was so incredibly put off by his arranged marriage that the marriage reform law was actually the first act that the Chinese Communist Party passed. The law banned forced marriage, as well as giving money to the groom's family for a bride, concubines, and child engagements, which was this really jacked up thing where the groom's family raised a young girl to become a ready-made wife. Women were also granted equal rights when it came to property, keeping their family name and the right to petition for divorce, which at first glance seems super progressive and feminist, right? But the catch was that women being regarded as equal meant that they could enter the workforce, which resulted in more productivity. So now, as a woman, you're expected to go do back-breaking work all day, then come home, make dinner because Grubhub hasn't been invented yet, take care of the kids, and clean the house. The U.S. Department of State then released these documents in 2008 that revealed Mao had said women were nonsense in 1973 when he was yakking it up with Henry Kissinger. Mao was quoted as saying, "China is a very poor country. We don't have much. What we have in excess is women. Let them go to your place. they will create disasters. That way, you can lessen our burdens. Ha 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 ha. Then Mao looked over to his official and went, "Wait, are you recording this? Don't leave this in the minutes. That would piss off so many people. Strike it from the records. Right, Mao?" So when Mao's 24, he gets a job at a university helping out the librarian who also happened to be a communist. That's when he discovered Marx and Lenin, and he's just gobbling it all up. He's like, "Oh my God, communism is the shit. I need to get involved. I need to organize protests. I need to publish radical articles in magazines. I need to mobilize all these people." During this time, he also meets his next wife, Yang. They were head over heels for each other. She was quoted as once saying she had fallen madly in love with him already when I heard about his numerous accomplishments. She was described as being small in stature and round-faced, with deep-set eyes and pale white skin. Which was totally Mao's type, but he was a shy guy, in addition to being broke. He lived with a bunch of other guys in a rented house, which sounds absolutely disgusting. So it took a little while for them to get together. Mao got a bunch of promotions, and they finally were married in a simple ceremony in 1920, which was probably a huge departure from his first wedding. They were both heavily involved in revolutionary work. Yang was a total rock star who was a teacher in a night school for peasants, a mother of 3, and the organizer behind many movements including women, peasants, students, and laborers. Mao and Yang were separated for 3 years while they both worked to advance their cause. Yang was worried constantly and was hardly able to communicate with her husband. She wrote letters to her cousin, asking him to take care of her kids if she met an untimely death. Yang was eventually captured by a warlord from the opposing party, the KMT, which was the Chinese Nationalist Party. And her captors were like, "Renounce your husband and his work." But even while being tortured, Yang is reported to have said, "You could kill me as you like. You would never get anything from my mouth. Chopping off the head is like the passing of wind. Death could frighten cowards rather than our communists. Even if the seas run dry and the rocks crumble, I would never break off relations with Mao Zedong. And I prefer to die for the success of Mao's revolution career." The unbelievable hard-ass was executed at the age of 29 in 1930, right in front of her son. She's often listed as one of the first Maoist martyrs. Many reports indicated that Mao was devastated at Yang's death, and he wrote poetry expressing his loss. When a comrade wrote a mournful poem about her husband and sent it to Mao, he responded with his own poem that read, "I lost my proud poplar, and you your willow. As poplar and willow they soar straight up into the 9th heaven, and ask the prisoner of the moon, Wu Gang, what is there? He offers them wine from the cassia tree. The lonely lady on the moon, Chang Yi, spreads her vast sleeves and dances for these good souls in the unending sky. Down on the earth, a sudden report of the tiger's defeat. Tears fly down from a great upturned bowl of rain." But what makes this especially interesting is the fact that there were also documents that reveal he may have married his 3rd wife while knowing full well that Yang was still alive. He was just ready to move on to a woman he met while doing commie shit in the mountains. His 3rd wife was also a badass mofo. Her name was He Shishen, and she was an expert in guerrilla warfare, as well as an accomplished fighter. She was such an amazing shooter, they called her the 2-gunned girl general. They had 5 kids together, giving Mao a grand total of 7 children at this point. But when 1937 rolls around, and He Zhishan goes to the Soviet Union to get treatment for a fucking battle wound, her husband meets this foxy young actress, Jian Xing. And I mean, she was young, like half his age young, which totally breaks the how young you can date rule of divide by 2 and add 7. She was 24, he was 45. Everyone in the Communist Party was like, "What are you doing? First, she's a child. Second, she's the bougiest bitch we've ever seen, and that, kind of goes against your whole philosophy, don't you think?" But Mao goes, hold up, hear me out. I'm sure we can find a compromise because, look at her, am I right? Let me divorce my third wife for Sheng. No, listen. Let me divorce my third wife for Sheng, and she'll stay out of politics for 30 years, okay? And the leaders go, fine. Go ahead, marry your fourth wife. Do whatever you want. We don't even care anymore. Game of Thrones is on tonight and I want to go home. Meeting adjourned. So Mao just gets super involved in communist groups. There's all this civil war and death until in 1949, the People's Republic of China is developed. That's when things got gnarly. There's this war with Korea, land reforms, the switcheroo from an agrarian to an industrial economy, a bunch of revolutions that resulted in a bloody class struggle where cultural artifacts were obliterated, catastrophic famine, mass suicides, executions, and the cult of personality. Mao supposedly said, people who try to commit suicide, don't attempt to save them. China is such a populous nation, it is not as if we cannot do without a few people. Then, in 1968, Mao was given mangoes from Pakistan. And when Mao starts handing them out to people, China loses its goddamn mind. They had never seen the fruit before, and they were getting this gift from the chairman. They wrote and published poetry about the mango. A poem in the People's Daily said, seeing that golden mango was as if seeing the great leader Chairman Mao. Again and again, touching that golden mango, the golden mango was so warm. People had parties for the mango. They put the mango on an altar. After the fruit started to rot, they peeled the skin off and boiled the inside in water and drank it by the spoonful. People made wax replicas of the mango. They freaked the fuck out, love bugs. One day, a dentist goes, oh, you guys, it's like a sweet potato. A mango's just like a sweet potato, right? And Mao's dudes are all like, oh, that's malicious slander, brosif. We're going to have to kill you. We're going to have to kill you, right, Mao? Dennis says, fair enough, and he's killed. In 1976, Mao, who had been a heavy smoker all his life, was dealing with heart and lung issues. He had multiple heart attacks before dying in September of that year. Then, Li Shushui, who was one of Mao's doctors for 22 years, emigrates to the States, and he writes this memoir that's published in 1994 called The Private Life of Chairman Mao, The Memoirs of Mao's Personal Physician. In the book, Li is like, I was besties with Mao. He would tell me positively everything. I used to keep these journals, but they were all burned during the Central Revolution, so this is just what I remember. But holy hell, do I remember some shit, you guys. And his book made these incredibly scandalous and salacious claims. Like, he mentions that when Mao started getting older, he had this midlife crisis phase where he started tripping out about not being youthfully strong. So Mao goes, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll sleep with a ton of women, and then my strength will be replenished. Foolproof. And his doctor goes, yeah, I don't know about that, bud. But Mao was like, what do you know? You've only gone to medical school, you douche canoe. I'm positive this is going to work. Hey, helper guy, build me a bed. A sex bed, if you will. With these specific dimensions right here. Then bring me some peasant girls. But first make sure they read this sex manual called Classic of the Plain Girl's Secret Way. Make sure they know what the hell they're doing first. Also, pop down to LA Fitness and pick up some frat boys too, would you? Supposedly, many of the women he slept with ended up with venereal disease, and the doctor said the illness, transmitted by Mao, was a badge of honor, a testimony to their close relations with the chairman. The book also states he was a big fan of entertainment, particularly entertainment of the nude aquatic variety. He had a troupe of girls and women on call that he would take ballroom dancing and then pick one to sleep with. Or he'd bring them all to his swimming pool and have the ladies all stripped down to their birthday suits before they'd perform a naked water ballet. Mao also had a dancing troupe entertain the army. One day when they're watching the performance, he sees a 14-year-old girl named Chen. He invites her to his bedroom to make tea, which is the best euphemism I've heard in a long time. They slept together for 5 years, until Mao's wife goes, "This is fucking ridiculous, you absolute twat waffle. Get rid of her. Today. I can't believe I put up with this shit." So Chen is sent away, much to the despair of the chairman. But he wasn't bummed out for too long, as he's reported to have had many, many mistresses in his 82 years of life, which is pretty impressive at the time considering it was a pre-Viagra world. When Mao was pushing 70, he met a 16-year-old that he became positively enamored with, a young woman named Shang Yufeng. Mao made her his secretary, so that his wife had to go through his mistress just to speak to her husband, which was of course super embarrassing. She also had to ask the mistress/secretary for spending money. So his wife messages all of her friends to come over to drink wine and listen to true crime podcasts, and she goes, "He's sleeping with everyone. Literally everyone. I'm going to get my own concubines. I'll do it. I swear to God I'll do it." And her friends are all, "Oh my God, my husband is sleeping with teenagers too. You should do it, girl. You should do it." So Mao's fourth wife builds her own harem, composed of a pianist, a writer, and a ping pong player. All of this was in Li's book. But after it was published in the 90s, people start coming out of the woodwork saying it's all utter bullshit. Every scandalous, salacious detail was completely false. An English professor, Tai Hong Chow, translated The Private Life of Chairman Mao into English. It was then edited by Anne F. Thurston. Professor Tai comes out and says Random House wanted more dirty bits than what Li was putting out, and they just wrote down a bunch of baloney without even consulting him. Li straight up said that Anne cut out these giant chunks without even asking him. And then don't even get him started on the Chinese version. It was so obvi based on the English version, not the original Chinese. It was just all wrong. The Chinese version was banned in China, along with several other works that don't paint the prettiest picture of Mao. 150 people who had personally known the chairman also signed a statement protesting the claims in the book. Much like Mao Zedong himself, the book remains controversial to this day. Whether or not the rumors held even an iota of truth is still debated amongst scholars, media, and supporters of Mao. While we may never know the truth behind the mango-loving Mao, it certainly makes for a scandalous and salacious journey through one of the most hotly debated governing bodies of the 20th century. Thanks for listening. As always, we love our community of listeners and appreciate any comments, corrections, suggestions, or ideas you have for us. Feel free to contact us by sending an email to tawny@tawnyvoice.com or just hitting us up on social media. See you next Tuesday. The following may make your head pop unless you're a Dirty Bits podcast fan that can differentiate between a love bug and a dirty birdie. Listener discretion advised. Welcome to the Dirty Bits Newsroom, the after show that updates our hardcore fans that we love the most on all the fun and exciting upcoming features on the show. George and I will be in LA October 13th to the 22nd. If any of you will be in the area, let us know. We'd love to meet up to have coffee, dinner, or whatever it is you're partial to. Shoot us a message and let's chat. As many of you know, we've recently joined the Orbital Jigsaw Network. We're proud to be a part of a wonderful pod family and have some brothers and sisters on the network we think you'd positively adore. Visit orbitaljigsaw.com, where you can discover high-quality, entertaining, and educational shows like Is This Adulting? Orbitaljigsaw.com is also now home to the Dirty Bits merchandise store, where you can find positively adorbs swag like phone cases, stickers, t-shirts, baby onesies, mugs, notebooks, and much more. They make fantastic gifts for the holidays, so be sure to share with your friends so they know what you want from Santa this year. We, of course, won't be getting anything at the Dirty Bits, because we've been extra naughty. Join us on social media, where we'll be doing giveaways of exciting new merchandise every week. When you sign up for our email list at tawnyvoice.com, you'll automatically be entered to win positively adorbs merchandise from our sponsors or goodies from our store. We love talking with our listeners and would be delighted if you joined in with us. Let us know how we're doing by leaving us a review on Facebook, iTunes, or just sending us a message. You might even get a shout out on our next episode. We'd like to thank Chris L. for the positively delightful review he left this week. He says, "Listening to the Tudors, and I realize you guys have made scandals fun. I would never read or watch the Thornbirds, or binge watch the Tudors, but I am wishing this was a 60-part series." We're so glad you liked the series, Chris. Thank you so much for your feedback. You're so sweet. Many of you have requested longer, bigger, more frequent episodes. You may have noticed since we joined the Orbital Jigsaw Network and have started our Patreon, our episodes have gone from an average of 15 minutes in length to over 20 minutes in length. This wouldn't be possible without all of your support for the show. We'll also be adding ad-free episodes beginning this month. We would absolutely love to produce the show for you full-time and bring you animation, more merchandise, live shows, tours, and much more. Every donation is a step towards achieving our goal of bringing more to the show and fulfilling listener requests. If that's something you would like to see, you can help us work towards making that a reality by visiting us at patreon.com/dirtybits and becoming an official Dirty Birdie. A giant thank you to our newest Dirty Birdies who have donated on Patreon: Brittany M., Christine H., Marcia B., and the Minds of Madness podcast, which we positively freaked out about. It's an amazing show, love bugs. Make sure you check them out. We are seriously overwhelmed by your generosity and are so excited to start sending you all of the patron-only goodies for your enjoyment. Every one of your contributions to the show means so much, especially to those who aren't able to donate. George and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Thank you for listening to these important updates from the Dirty Bits newsroom, love bugs, and Dirty Birdies. We'll see you